Yeah. I'll have to change that in a moment. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start. I want to thank everybody for coming. I think we have, I don't know what's happening here today. We had some good friends from America come, just suddenly showed up. I didn't even know they were going to be coming to Puri. And their father, who is a really, hold on. Okay. Their father, who's a really wonderful devotee, just left his body actually over a year ago. And they brought his ashes finally to India, and they wanted me to put the ashes in the ocean, and then we had some feast, and it was a whole program. So they were going to come today, but I don't know what's going to happen. So I'll go ahead and just start. Gora graganya gana go to goloruharam Goranga guda tamagopyata kopa briksham Gopala gada ratidam yati singha Govinda Deshikavaram Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachiya Dileka Kola Kahe Premananda Emona Goranga Hridaya Dariya Bola Bhaja Goranga Kaha Goranga Laha Gorangera Namare Je Jana Goranga Bhaje Se Hoyamara Pranare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema Bidhana Padama Pumarta Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Sri Kriyat Kripaya Jari Tadaiva Sambhaya Pidva Rishayustad Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunathabda Brajabala Bapahimam Vanchakalpadarubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, nice to see everybody here today. Thank you very much. So we're continuing with this third chapter of Embankment of Separation, which is a new chapter for the book. We're getting ready, it looks like now, to reprint a pocketbook edition, and I'm thinking not to put this chapter in the pocketbook, but we're also going to make a deluxe edition, and we'll put it in there. So this chapter is called Nectar and Poison Combined. And a devotee, I think, who first gave it the title was probably inspired by the section we're going to enter into, I think, today. So in our last session, we introduced this part where Guru Maharaj speaks about Viruddha Dharma, or two different opposites. Viruddha means some opposite thing. So when Krishna accepted Radha Bhav, there are two opposites that appeared in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And those opposites, I was yelling for you, you're probably in the shower or something. Those two opposites are Milan and Viraha, union and separation. And this is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, two opposite things in one container. So I'm just reviewing a little bit now because this is real high-tech stuff. And just to look back a little bit, some of the comments we were making in our last session, one of the points we were making is that this is an important subject for us to learn. We should understand something about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We should always have something that we're striving for. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Chaitanya Siksamrita, he comments that bhakti is like a ladder. And when you progress on a ladder, it means that you raise up to a rung, and then you have to keep going. If you stay on the rung, if you say, oh, this is good enough, then you don't go any higher up. So we should always be striving for something more. And that requires that we have good association. My grandma
Has everybody lost Prabhu there?
That's right. I lost him. I can't hear him.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah,
lost
I thought it was just me.
You lost him completely, Prabhu.
Yeah, no, we're just checking. I'm checking with him.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This is so lovely.
We look like we lost Prabhu. Oh,
Shaman Prabhu, yeah, I'm just checking with him what's happening on his side.
no worries, Prabhu.
Anybody wants to give some reflections while we're waiting? You could maybe pull the time up.
Well, I'm hoping that Prabhu shares something about Jagannath Rath Yatra as well.
That would be cool.
Mm.
Oh, there we go.
Hare Krishna. So we're back. I'm sorry. Our connection just dropped completely. I don't know why it was. So we'll go ahead again. Let's see. Gauragraganya gana go to Goloru Haram Gauranga Guru Tama Gopyada Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshika Varam Satatam Namami. So Guru Maharaj was speaking about Viruddha Dharma, two opposites. And he said Viruddha Dharma comes in three types: Brahma Ghat, Krishna Ghat, and Radha Prema Ghat. So we spoke something in the last session about Brahma Ghat and Krishna Ghat, and a little bit about Radha Prema Ghat, and how there's opposites within each one of them. Within Brahma Ghat, there's Tattva Avagahi. There's two opposites in Tattva. There's Brahma Nirgun and Brahma Sagun, or Brahman without a form and Brahman with a form. And we hear, therefore, in Shastra that Brahma Apanipad, that Brahman has no legs, but he can run very swiftly. He has no hands, but he accepts everything. He has no eyes, but he sees everything. Brahma Akarna, he has no ears, but he hears everything. So these are opposites, known as, he spoke of as Tattva Avagahi. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So Avagahi we spoke about in our last meeting also. Ava means away from, and Gahita, or Gahi, means to penetrate or enter into something. Ava means away from, and Gahi means to enter into. So it's two opposites. You're running away from something, but at the same time penetrating or entering into it. So he spoke something about Brahma Avagahi. And then there's Krishna Avagahi. And within Krishna, there's two opposites. There's Aishvarya and Madhurja, his sweetness and his opulence. And we spoke something about that, how Krishna is independent, how he's Sarvagya, in opulence, he knows everything. But at the same time, he's Mugdha. He becomes bewildered by the gopis, and he forgets everything, forgets who he is and everything else. So then the third type is Radha Prema Avagahi, and that is the opposites within Radha Prem. And Guru Maharaj spoke about how Radharani is a supreme guru, and how Radha Prem is a nadi, it's unlimited, has no beginning, no end. And Guru Maharaj goes on to speak about separation in Ujjwal Nilamani, and he says how there's four types of viraha and four types of milan. And he says we're skipping over it because that's another topic. He wants to focus on something else. Now, all these talks that Guru Maharaj gave, they just very wonderfully found their way into this book, Embankment of Separation. I can also mention it in Mathura Meets Vrindavan. It was almost, I felt like the books were just meant to be. The lectures all worked so well together. It was almost like a conscious thing on the part of Guru Maharaj that he wanted to share these things. And as we've often commented, and I want to keep stressing this point, the purpose of the Embankment of Separation, Guru Maharaj wanted to show devotees something about the nature of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. we should learn about Gauranga and not just think that he's here to teach about vegetarianism or something. So, Radha Prem has no beginning. Radha Prem is unlimited. And Guru Maharaj quotes Danakeli Komudi, Guru Vibhur Api Kalayan Sada Bivridim Guru Vibhur Api Kalayan Sadhu Bivridam Guru Api Gaurava Karyaya Vihina Muhurupi Chita Vakrimapi Sudho Jayati Muradvishi Radikanuragaha. All glories to Radharani's love for Krishna. The enemy, Krishna is the enemy of the demon Mura, Muradvisha. Although that love is all-pervading, it tends to increase at every moment. Although that love is important, it's devoid of pride. And although it's pure, that same love always has duplicity within it. A very beautiful verse describing about the opposites within the love of Srimati Radharani. So that verse is written by Rupa Goswami from his Danakeli Komudi. It's quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita also in Adi chapter 4. And Guru Maharaj comments that Rupa Goswami has written this, and the purport is that although Radha Prem is Vibhu, supreme and unlimited, still it's ever increasing. And this is an opposite. We started to touch on this in our last session. It's something's unlimited, but it's also increasing. That doesn't make sense. So this is the nature of Radharani's love. And Krishna, who is Jagat Guru, he's the Guru of the universe, Krishna says, Radhikara Prema Guru Ami Sishanata. That Srimati Radharani, she's my Guru of Prem, and I'm her dancing disciple. She's making me dance in so many different ways. So if we contemplate the matter, Guru Maharaj spoke, and it's a very important point. It's such an important point for us. If we contemplate the matter, we have our Gurudev, our Param Gurudev, for most of us is Srila Prabhupada, our Paratpara Gurudev, above him is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Our Paratpara Gurudev is Gorky Das Babaji, then Bhaktivedanta Thakur, and Jagannath Das Babaji, and we work our way back to our disciplic succession. But Guru Maharaj comments, if we go back in that line of gurus, ultimately we come to Krishna. But who is Krishna's Guru? Srimati Radharani is Krishna's Guru. So Radharani is the Supreme Guru. She's Supreme Guru Tattva. And that Radha Prem becomes the Guru of Krishna. And therefore Krishna becomes a devotee. He becomes subservient to that Radha Prem. And it's such an important thing to try to understand. At least we should theoretically understand it. At least we should care. So many of us are very, very selfish, and it hurts our relationships with each other. We don't care about the other devotees in the temple. We don't care about the brahmacharis. We don't care about our husband or wife. Sometimes they don't care about their children or their parents. We're just very self-centered. So in bhakti, we have to give that up. We have to become ultimately central, which means that we see that Srimati Radharani and her love for Krishna is at the center of everything. So Guru Maharaj is commenting on how the love of Radha is Vishuddha Surnirmala. It's completely pure, but at the same time, it's Vakragati. It moves in a crooked kind of way. And as we mentioned, he says that Radha Prem is at the topmost level. Guru Vastu Nahi Sunishchita. It's the last limit. Chaitanya Charitamrita describes it. Radharani's position is the last level of Guru. And so unless Krishna accepts Radha Prem, unless he accepts that thing, his desire can't be fulfilled. Guru means heavy. But in this case, it's an opposite, because although Radha Prem is very heavy, there's no pride in it. Radha Prem is full of dainya, full of humility. That's a wonderful characteristic of it. So much so that Radharani says, I don't even have a scent of love for Krishna. She's that personality who's the embodiment of love of Krishna, but she's saying, Hata Bhagini. I'm very, very unfortunate. I'm very wretched. I have no good fortune. Srimati Radharani, Kaviraj Goswami says, she says, Dure Suda Prema Ganda, Kapata Prema Rabanda, Seha Mora, Nahi Krishna Pai. I don't even have a tinge of Krishna Prema, not even a slight fragrance of it. I'm very, very poor. Kapata Prema Banda, because I don't have this Krishna Prema. So then what's the value of my life? Jivera Vyarta. My life is completely useless because I don't have Krishna Prema. So that's the nature of Radharani's love. There's two opposites there. It's guru. Her love is guru. Guru means heavy, but at the same time there's no pride in it. It's very light. She's very, very humble. She says, I don't have any love. Radharani says, I can't relish Krishna's form and qualities. I can't relish with my senses. Why do we put so much stress on this? It's something we comment on sometimes, that devotees sometimes misunderstand the mood of Radha and the gopis, because Atmavan Manyate Jagat, wherever I'm thinking, I project that on everyone else, all the way up to Radharani. And I think, yeah, I really like going to the temple every day, and I just stand in front of the deity and I just see how beautiful he is, and I love the way they've dressed him. I love when they put some painting on Krishna's face and the garlands and this and that. But if that's for our own personal satisfaction, that's not such a good thing. And the nature of our senses in this world, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says, those senses which we're using, which we're engaging in bhajan, are the same senses that bind us to this world. So we can, therefore it said, Atashri Krishna Namadi Nabhavid Graham Indra. With your senses you can't perceive Krishna. Well then, hello, what are we supposed to do? Sevan Mukhi Jivado. We're supposed to work with our senses in the mood of service. And so Guru Maharaj commented on this quite often, and we spoke about this in some of our recent sessions, about how hearing should be a service, speaking should be a service, and seeing Krishna is a service. Just like, the girls, they become so excited when the boys are looking at them or something, and then they're whispering to each other, did you see, they were watching us, and this and that, or this girl's looking at the boy. Krishna gets pleasure from that, and the gopis know that. And that's why there's so much talk about Radha Kripa Kataksha Stavaraj, the merciful glance of Srimati Radharani, and Krishna Kripa Kataksha Stavaraj, the glance of Krishna, and how there's so much power in that. We want to have the glance of Krishna. That's the meaning of darshan. Not that I'm seeing Krishna, but darshan means that Krishna is seeing me. And the epitome of that darshan is that Krishna, he wants the gopis to see him. Krishna gets pleasure from that. And Krishna, therefore, he has his all-attractive feature. And that all-attractive feature is reciprocating with the love of the gopis. So Radharani, she's thinking though, she's stressing that I can't relish Krishna's pastimes, his form, his qualities. I can't relish it with my senses. My body's useless. She's thinking she can't relish. That relishment is so important. I remember one senior devotee, he made some interesting comments. He was a temple president. He was my president for some time. And he's my friend. He's a wonderful devotee. But I don't agree with all of his conceptions, at least that he used to have. And one comment he made once, he said that Chaitanya Charitamrita is not actually for devotees, but it's for it's for the scholars. And in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada dedicates the book for my disciples. I think he missed that particular point. And anyway, some devotees are doing a lot of service, and that's their main focus. But he was also commenting, he said that giving class is not service. But that's also not true. There's Navavidi Bhakti, and there are 9 different types of service, beginning with hearing, and then after we hear Shravan, then we do Kirtan, we speak. So we should understand that. Those things, because of our senses and our experience, we're using everything. We speak for my pleasure, I see something for my pleasure, and I project on the Srimati Radharani and the gopis, and I think they're also doing like that. So we should understand something about their nature. And then he goes on to say that in Radha Prem, there's two opposites, poison and nectar, mixed together. Bisha Amritera Milan. Bisha means poison, and Amrit means nectar. And Milan means when they're together. So when there's Milan union, that's very, very sweet. Milananda, Madhu. Very sweet union. But then when there's separation, it burns like poison. And then Guru Maharaj quotes some verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which maybe I'll go ahead and sing. Bhai Bisha Jala Hoy, Bitare Ananda Moy, Krishna Prema Adbhuta Charita. E Prema Ashvadam Tapa Iksha Chavana, Mukha Jale Nanya Jajana. Say Prema Janna Mane Tara Vikrama Se Janin Vishamrite Katra Milan. And Guru Maharaj gives his own translation for this. He says that externally there appears to be some severe tribulation, as if suffering from poisonous effects. But internally there's bliss. This is a characteristic of transcendental love of Krishna. If one tastes such love of Godhead, it can be compared to hot sugar cane. If you chew hot sugar cane, your mouth burns and it just, you can't, you have to let go of it. But at the same time, it's so sweet and so nice, you can't give it up. And Guru Maharaj says, similarly, if one has just even a little love of God, then you can perceive its powerful effects, which are compared to poison and nectar mixed together. Now this is another really important point for devotees to understand. The nature of Krishna Prem and how these two opposites are there. The nature of viraha. We're oftentimes intuitively afraid of viraha, afraid of separation. Or we can't conceive how there can be any pleasure within it. But if we think deeply about the subject matter, one of the most popular subjects in the world within the venues of music and theater and drama and literature is lost love. Romeo and Juliet, they were in love, but then they were separated and then they died. And that drama is very, very appealing to us. If there was only suffering, even in the material version, then how would there be so much fascination within it? There's also a kind of pleasure there in seeing the nature of that love. So we should understand this is the nature of Krishna Prem. And Guru Maharaj, he quoted Vidagdha Madhav, Rupa Goswami, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he spoke this verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila chapter 2. It's also from Vidagdha Madhav originally. And Mahaprabhu, he says, Pida bir navakala kuta katuta garvasya nirvasano nishyandena mudam sudha madhurima ahankara sankochana prema sundari nandana puro jagarti yasyantare Gyayante sputamasya vakra maduras tenaiva vikrantayo. Mahaprabhu, speaking in the mood of the gopis, he said, my dear beautiful friend, if someone develops love of God, love of Krishna for the son of Nanda Maharaj, then all the bitter and sweet influences of this love will manifest in their heart. And he says that love of God acts in two ways. The poisonous effects defeat the severe and fresh poison of a very, very terrible snake, which can kill one. But simultaneously, there's the greatest bliss. And that bliss pours down and defeats the pride of nectar and diminishes its value. So that nectar has some pride. But this transcendental bliss makes one so humble. And he says, so in other words, love of Krishna is so powerful that it simultaneously defeats the poisonous effects of a snake, and it defeats the happiness derived from pouring nectar on one's head. It's perceived as doubly effective, simultaneously poisonous and nectarian. This is such a wonderful, wonderful subject to study. This is like the essence of all art, the topmost feelings that someone can have. And therefore, our topmost literatures in the world are Vedanta Madhav and Lita Madhav, written by Rupa Goswami. And Guru Maharaj goes on to speak about them and how they're postgraduate studies. And within there, there's a statement of Purnamasi, where she's speaking about the love, prem related to Krishna. It's such that if someone gets that prem, then only then can they know what it's like. And the prema, the movement of it, is known as Vakra Madhura. Vakra means crooked. There's a Muni called Ashtavakra Muni, because he's crooked in 8 different places. So Vakra means crooked. And someone who has developed this prema, who realizes and tastes it, that person knows how it is. We want to hear about it, not because we want to imitate it, but because we want to know that such a thing exists. So we have some inspiration to go in that direction, and that we have some desire to find association like that, both within literature and within physical association, if we can be so fortunate. So Vipralamba is the most intense. Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, who was Srila Prabhupada's sannyas guru, he wrote some prayers called the Radha Vinod Bihari Tattvastikam. And he speaks there about this separation in very wonderful language. He says, Sevya Sevaka Sambhoge Dvayor Beda Kuto Bhavet Vipralambe Tu Sarvasya Beda Sada Vivardate. That when Krishna, he's saying Sevya Sevaka. So Sevya means Krishna, who's taking service from the Sevak. Sevya Sevaka Sambhoge. When they meet together, Srimati Radharani is the supreme Sevak. Krishna is the supreme Savior. He's meant to be served. Radharani is serving Krishna. She's the supreme servant. Dvaira Beda Kuto Bhavet. When they meet together, when the Sambhog is there with them, then there's no distinction between them. Even we see in a mundane example of a boy and girl, so they even start looking alike. Or you can look online and see pictures of people with their pets, and they look just like their dog, or just like their cat. They become so close to that. Or a disciple becomes very close to Gurudev, and he starts looking. You can see their guru in the face of that disciple. So Dwaya Beda Kuto Bhavet. There's no distinction between them. But Vipralambe Tu Sarvasya Beda Sada Vivardate. In Vipralamba, the feelings of separateness intensify. Beda Sada, they perpetually always intensify. So the Savior is Krishna. He's Bhokta Bhagavan. He's the one who's enjoying. And the Sevaka is Bhogya. Right? Bhokta, and understand these two words, Bhokta and Bhogya. Bhokta means the enjoyer. That's Krishna. Bhogya means the enjoyed. That's Srimati Radharani. Krishna is Bhokta Bhagavan. He's the Supreme Lord. He's always enjoying. Srimati Radharani is also Asamordva. Krishna's Asamordva means one who's no one can be equal to or greater than him. In the realm of Bhokta Bhagavan. He's the supreme enjoyer. And Srimati Radharani is also Asamordva in the realm of Bhogya, the personality who's enjoyed. She gives more pleasure to Krishna than anyone else. This is Srimati Radharani. So at the time of meeting between Radha and Krishna, there's no Beda. Vipralambe tu sarva, he says, excuse me, Sevya Sevika Samboge Dvaya Beta Kuto Bhavet. At the time of meeting, there's no beta, there's no difference. They're a beta. But in separation, the beta mood especially increases. So this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How many times do we hear devotees saying, yes, our philosophy is what? Achincha beta beta tattva, right? We say it so many times. But how deeply do we understand that? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the embodiment of Achincha beta beta. Because Mahaprabhu is a beta, he's one with Radha. But at the same time, he's beta. There's difference because he's crying in separation from Radha. Because Vipralamba, or separation, is a prominent mood within Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's both union and separation within him. So he himself is a Achincha beta beta. And all of his philosophy is a Achincha beta beta. So this, I want to explore a little bit about this concept of separation being something very pleasurable. Sanatana Goswami discusses this in Brihad Bhagavatamrita in 2 verses, which are often quoted by our later acharyas, and these are kind of the main pramana, I think you might say, about the happiness of separation. Pragyadyapi prema krita Yadyapi prema kritat prehanam vicheda davana lavegatonata santapa jatena duranta soka veshena gadham vavataiva dukam tatapi samboga sukada pistuta sakao pyani vacha tamo manorama pramoda rasi parinamato dhruvam tataspure tad rasikaika vedyaha. This is spoken by Krishna, and he's speaking about the nature of the gopis who are prema kritat. They have so much love for Krishna, but vicheda davanala vegatonta, they feel like they're in a davanala. We sing a song every morning, sangsara davanala lida loka, that this whole sangsara is on fire. And the gopis, they're completely on fire. They're suffering in a forest fire of separation. Santapa. Tapa means that they're suffering like anything. Santapa, jatina, duranta shoka. There's so much lamentation. Right? But at the same time, tatapi samboga sukadapi stutaha. This separation is more glorious, Krishna says, than directly meeting me. That's an amazing thing. And for sadhaks, we should deeply understand this. Very often we're very greedy for our own sense gratification, to be close with Gurudev, to have our photo taken with Gurudev, the higher Vaishnavas, to be able to say, I associated with Maharaj, I was very close with him, I stayed with him for so long, I traveled with him, I did this and this. But Srila Prabhupada often commented, sorry Jagadatma, Srila Prabhupada, Krishna Kum, would you like to just send him a message for me?
Yeah, sure.
Srila Prabhupada commented that, let's see here, I'll just find this. Thank you. That the mosquito is close to the king. But what's the value of the closeness of the mosquito to the king? And Srila Prabhupada, in a similar way, he chastised devotees sometimes, like Harikesh Prabhu. Prabhupada, he was Prabhupada's personal servant. He was done really nice service. And Prabhupada chastised him and said, what are you doing? Go away. I want you can do so much more service in separation. So that separation has to be there in certain ways for ourselves as conditioned souls. And we need to understand the value of this separation and how that increases the feelings in our heart so much. My Guru Maharaj used to often speak about how we should learn to cry for Krishna. And once one devotee asked him, so, well, Maharaj, you're speaking all the time about crying for Krishna, but it's just a theoretical thing for me. I can't understand it. And Guru Maharaj replied to him, he said that after I leave this world, then you'll understand. So it's something which is a natural thing that we lose association with Guru. But that loss, paradoxically, in some ways, turns out to be a great gain, because it increases our intensity. In the same way that Krishna, I don't think that's the problem, but in the same way that Krishna, he put the gopis in an ocean of separation, and by putting them into separation, he intensified their love thousands and thousands of times over, and he showed their love to the world. So Krishna goes on, he's speaking these verses, and he says that the nature of this separation, and that anivachatamu manoram, it's indescribable, but it's manorama. You can't describe it. It's so enchanting for the mind. Pramoda rasi parinamato dhruvam. It's an ocean of ecstatic love, and only those persons who are rasik, who are expert in tasting mellows of love, only they can understand it. So we should at least keep it in front of our eyes, something, and understand something about it. And Srila Prabhupada, he comments quite often on separation. He says this is the essence of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, and it's the highest feeling. And he speaks quite a bit about separation from Guru. And he says that actually this is a kind of great ecstasy, although we don't feel that way about it. We need it as neophyte devotees. This will help us. So Sanatana Goswami, in his Brihad Vaishnav Toshani on Brihad Bhagavatamrita, we just read these 2 verses, he explains them, and he gives a very beautiful explanation. Brahmanando niravachas tasmad apyadika yena bhajananando nivacharata tatracha premanando niva achatama tatrapi viraharti dwara jataha sanparam. He says that this bliss of Brahman, Brahmananda, is described in the Upanishads as being indescribable. But the bliss of bhajan is attracting even the minds of the Brahmanandis, the persons who are attracted to the happiness in Brahman. And so that bliss is even greater. But when that bhajanananda, that happiness in bhajan becomes very intense, it's called premananda. And that premananda is most indescribable. And when that premananda reaches its limits, it's, he says, maha nirva chattamo ityartaha. It's the utmost indescribable thing. This is the topmost thing. This is the topmost ecstasy of love of God. And we see it in Srimad Bhagavatam in chapter 47, in the 10th canto, in the Brahma Gita, which is echoed in the 19th chapter of the Ancha Lila, and several throughout the Chaitanya Charitamrita in different places. And Kaviraj Goswami says that Mahaprabhu was in the mood of Radha when she met with Uddhava. So this pain of separation appears like misery, but actually it's the highest happiness. And Sanatana Goswami then goes on to give another explanation in his commentary about this, another example. He says that just like you take a block of ice, and that block of ice is very, very cold, but if you touch it, it feels like you're burning. But it's cold. It feels like you're burning, but that burn is just in your imagination. It's actually very, very cold. So in the same way, the misery, he says, that the devotee feels when he's separated from the Lord, from Guru, that's just his imagination. But actually, it's a pinnacle of ecstasy and happiness. So Guru Maharaj goes on, finishing this chapter, saying how, I'm going to go a little bit over time maybe, but I'd like to finish this chapter. This is our 5th session in this one chapter. How prema acts within Sambhog and Vipralamba, union and separation are two opposites. And in the situation of Vipralamba, the prema is so poisonous, more than the poison of a snake. Marma Vidaraka. And he says it's acute burning in Vipralamba. But in Sambhogado means a condition of union. It's Premananda Prada. It gives so much happiness, Premananda. This is a wonderful characteristic of Krishna Prem. There's no greater intoxicant. And Guru Maharaj goes on to speak, he says, if you take marijuana or LSD, you'll become mad because they're intoxicants. He says, but in Krishna Prem, there's no intoxication, but at the same time, it's a very great intoxicant. In fact, it's the greatest intoxicant. And if somebody gets it, that person becomes mad. There's one professor who wrote a book, I have a soft copy of a nice book, called The Madness of the Saints. And she's written about Gorgeshwara's Babaji and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and different saints, and how within different traditions, even within the Catholic tradition and the Islamic tradition, there's traditions of mad saints who just don't fit in with anybody. They're just a mad person. They don't fit in the material world. And that's the nature of Krishna Prem. When someone has love of God, they're just a mad person. And that Krishna Prem burns, but at the same time, it's also the greatest happiness. And this combination is Rasa Avagahi. He spoke about Radha Prema Avagahi. Now he's speaking about Rasa Avagahi. The opposites within rasa. Rasa Avagahi is only found within Srimati Radharani. It's not found, he comments, in Mathura and Dwarka or Vaikuntha. It's not found with anyone else. That prema is also not found with Krishna. Krishna himself doesn't have this thing. And therefore Krishna becomes greedy. How can I get it? And therefore he assumes Radha Bhav, he becomes his Gauranga Mahaprabhu so that he can taste that thing. So even it's not found, what to speak of it in the Vaikuntha planets with the Lakshmi Devis. It's not found in Dwarka with the Maheshis, with the queens of Krishna. It's not found in Mathura and the ladies there. It's not even found in Vrindavan with any of the gopis. This Rasa Avagahi is only found within Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani, therefore, she's Madhanakya Mahabhava Moyi. She's the last limit. She's the embodiment of Madhanakya Mahabhava, which is the highest ecstasy of love of God. So Krishna wanted that so much, so he came as Gauranga Mahaprabhu to steal that. This is the nature of this love. So that's the end of this chapter. And in our next session, then we're going to go on with chapter 4. And maybe something else we can... But I'd like to stop here now and ask the devotees, I know this is a really intense topic, if anybody has any comments or questions or anything. Hemanti has something here. She says the concept of separation in spiritual life is so deep and enchanting and mystical. When we compare it to normal mundane relationships, separation brings pain and maybe indifference. However, separation in connection with Krishna Prem brings ecstasy. The point mentioned is separation from Guru and the deepening of the Guru-disciple relationship and physical separation is something that also stood out. It's a natural thing. We often comment about this. We have a hard time understanding it sometimes, how we may even think that, well, Krishna, you did a good job. You created everything, and there's a nice sunrise, and the ocean's beautiful, and the mountains are beautiful, but you made one little mistake, if I can comment. What is that mistake? You naturally made the Guru older than the disciple. That's the general course of things. And so it means that the Guru is going to leave this world before the disciple. And the disciple is going to have to feel separation. And he's going to feel so much stress and anxiety what am I going to do? Because when Gurudev is present, then things are very, very simple. We have someone that we can go to, and we can say, Gurudev, this devotee's telling me I shouldn't do this, or there's someone to resolve everything. But when Gurudev's no longer present, we don't have that anymore. So in our next chapter, we're also going to go on. There's another new chapter in Embankment of Separation. And we'll be speaking about Bhakti Naipunya and about how, what is the meaning of union and separation. A very amazing subject matter. So anybody else with any reflections or comments or anything? Let's see here. Somehow my Zoom did some strange stuff. Let's see then. Mukunda Prabhu, do you want to comment anything? Did you win any prizes today?
Hare Krishna. No prizes today. Don't have much to say today. I'm just trying to absorb everything you were trying to say. But I was still trying to get over last week's class when you mentioned that the gopis and the sakhis and the manjaris are all chanting Krishna's name. But that's actually Gauranga Bhajan. I was still trying to figure that out. I've had a few sleepless nights on this because, it's sort of anxiety level now. I'm trying to figure out what does this mean.
Yeah, when we say
What does it take?
Bhajan, when we say Gauranga Bhajan, we're not just only saying that Bhajan of the name of Gauranga, but Bhajan for the pleasure of Gauranga.
Yes. So I was just trying to figure that out because I know it's such a deep subject matter, but it caught my attention. So hopefully I can come around that one.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. And let's see who else. Krishna Balaram Prabhu, you there? You hiding somewhere?
Hare Krishna, Madhavananda Prabhu, it's Nanda Rani.
I didn't think that was Krishna Balaram's voice.
Prabhu, sorry, Krishna Balaram is, to my knowledge, not on this call. Yes. He's attending a meeting at one of the temples.
Okay, we have to do that kind of stuff sometimes.
Yeah. He's actually had to fly up to Johannesburg. I'm in Durban at the moment, Prabhu.
Oh.
We drove down a couple of days ago, and then he had to just fly for the meeting, but he'll be back early tomorrow morning.
You guys staying in Durban? I'm a little confused. Oh, you're staying in Johannesburg always.
No, we live in Johannesburg, but the boys are now on holiday after their exams, so they're having a bit of a vacation. So Christian Baum and I decided to come here for about a week or so.
Gotcha.
But he just had a meeting that he had to go back, and he'll come back and join us for the rest of the week.
Okay. Anyway, we miss his Sangha. Nice, Lisa, you're here.
But Prabhu, I had a couple of points. I enjoyed the class as usual. I think with all of these classes, I'm still feeling like I'm really learning a lot. And so that's a nice feeling. Because it makes me sort of feel like we're going deeper, and I like that feeling. I have a very simple question that I was meant to ask you last week, Prabhu, and a couple of points as well. But from today's class, I was just thinking, from the beginning, you mentioned the point that your Gomad said we should learn about Gauranga. And when you said that, I thought to myself, that's so true. We should learn about him because sometimes we might just think of him as somebody who came to spread, the message of Krishna. So he's the incarnation and he came to spread Krishna consciousness or something like that, or a preacher. But we actually should learn about him at a deeper level. So I really liked that point. And I like the point about understanding Krishna Prema as well. Ultimately, that's the goal. So we hear about it. For myself, when I heard that, I thought to myself, we've heard so many classes about Krishna Prema, but to understand this point that there's pleasure in separation, it blows my mind as well. I feel that I'm scared about separation, Prabhu. So I just wanted to get your advice about that. I just feel very scared with separation. I can understand it theoretically right now that there's pleasure in separation, but at this point, I just feel scared that if I'm separated from, since you used the example of Guru, even though I know that I don't have love for my Gomaj, the thought of separation scares me, and perhaps that is my immaturity in spiritual life. But those are some of the points that were going through my mind, Guru. Thank
Can I
you.
tell you something? If you read in Chaitanya Charitamrita and the literatures of our Goswamis, you'll find the gopis are also afraid of separation. Very much so. And that's a symptom of love. Once Shrutakirti Prabhu was serving Prabhupada, and wherever they would go, the devotees were crying when Prabhupada would arrive. They were crying in ecstasy, and then Prabhupada would leave, and they were crying in separation. And Shrutakirti was thinking, man, I'm just a dry rock. I have no feeling or anything. And he was feeling he went to see Srila Prabhupada. He said, Prabhupada, I just don't have any feelings inside. And Prabhupada was quiet a little bit, and Prabhupada said, do you like to serve me? And he said, yes, Prabhupada, very much. And Prabhupada said, that is love. What is all this crying and, and feelings like that? But real feelings means we want to serve. Real feelings means we want to bring pleasure to that personality. And yes, if we say we're not afraid of separation, if we say that, well, it's okay, we're actually still together, that's a kind of impersonalism, isn't it? I mean, how can you say that to a mother about her children, that it's okay if you're separated from them, don't be attached? And sometimes devotees even speak like that, but it's a kind of impersonalism. As devotees, we're very, very attached to that. And even to each other, even in our Grihastha ashram, you may be very attached to your boys in a Krishna conscious way, hopefully. If you're attached to hearing and chanting with them, and you just love them because they're devotees, and they love you because they're devotees, like Srinivasacharya. His father's name was Gangadhar Mishra, as I recall. He later became known as Chaitanya Das. And he was there when the barber Madhu cut Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's hair. And he became mad, Gangadhar Bhattacharya was his name. And he was crying and crying. And when he heard Keshava Bharati give the sannyas name to Mahaprabhu, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, he just became mad and just started chanting, Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. He went back to his village, and all of a sudden he's a completely different person. He's crazy. And it's a long story. He was about 70 years old. And somehow he had a desire to have a child at such an old age. And we thought, this is crazy. And then he and his wife went to Jagannath Puri, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him, you should have a child. You'll have a son. And so you could go back to Navadvip and you'll have a child. So he went back and they had a child. And Mahaprabhu told him, you name the child Srinivas. And as that child was growing up, they had the ideal Grihastha program. Gangadhar, or Chaitanya Das as he became known, would take his little boy in his lap and start speaking about how beautiful Mahaprabhu was, and how beautiful his hair was, and how Madhu was cutting that hair. And then Chaitanya Das would just start crying, and he would fall down on the ground and start rolling and crying. And then Srinivas would become very emotional, the little boy, and he would start crying and rolling on the ground. They would embrace each other. And there's so much love there. Now, probably your family may not be like that. But at least we should hear about that. And at least we should definitely try to cultivate feelings, devotional feelings, for our husband, for our wife, for our children. And that's a very important thing. And along with those feelings is going to come separation. I was giving a class in Odessa, in Ukraine, some years ago, and we were saying how devotees should learn to love each other. And even the husband should love the wife should love the husband. And one brahmachari friend of mine was sitting in front, and he raised his hand at the end and said, Prabhuji, there's no such thing as love in the material world. And I said, yes, you're right. And we don't want to live in the material world. We want to live in the spiritual world. And he said, but if you're in love with your wife, your husband, then when they die, you're going to cry. And I said, yes. But that crying is not normal crying. If you're attached to them as a devotee. And the brahmacharis may also cry. I've seen brahmachari. When I was a brahmachari, I had a good friend who killed himself. I was a new bhakta. And it was a very, very heavy thing for me. You cry in separation from someone, and that's a natural thing. And if you're crying because you've lost someone that you're doing kirtan with and doing service with, then that helps bring you closer to Krishna. And it's an important principle for us to understand. So these are very high things, but there's also some relevance for us within them too. Okay, is that all right then, Nandarai?
Yes, Prabhu. The simple question I wanted to also ask is, who is Premananda Das?
Premananda Das is a devotee in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was in the same line as the Kula Guru of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, what's the name? The Bihari Goswami, yeah, I know, but the name of the place where he's from, not Birnagar. Anyway, there's a group, and he's in that line, and a little different than us in some ways, but also very great devotee. He wrote a book called Manasiksha, and there's 108 songs. We're just the one devotee who's translating for us. He just sent me the 6th song, which we've translated 6 songs so far in that book, and there's one song for each mala on the japa mala. And they're instructions to the mind. Very, very beautiful, very sweet thing. He's a very wonderful writer, poet. He lived about 100, 200 years after the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's a rough something about Premananda Das.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Chaitanya Prabhu, do you want to share anything? Do you win any prize today?
We win prizes every week, Prabhu. I'm still struggling to understand the concept that we talk about that in separation there can be this ecstasy. So I'm still trying to gather that thought and try and crystallize it in my mind. I don't know if there's anything else you could add to help me with that.
Okay.
It just seems difficult to grasp, mainly because we don't have a sense of that experience too often. So,
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his Sa'artha Darshani commentary on the Bhagavatam, he gives a very amazing definition of the word viraha. And he breaks, viraha means separation. And he breaks viraha into 2 words, vi and raha. And he says vi means vishesh, and raha means rahasya. Vishesh means special, and rahasya means rahasya milan. It means external separation, but an extraordinary union, rahasya, a hidden union within, which is a very, very extraordinary thing. That's the meaning of viraha. And Jiva Goswami in Priti Sandarbha gives a similar definition, I don't remember the Sanskrit, but to the word vipralamba. He says that vipra means to attain something, lamba from a distance. So it indicates external union, but external separation, but internal union. So that's within spiritual life, and that's a very amazing thing, a very, very difficult thing to understand. And that's the nature of bhakti, it's the nature of love. It's the essence of love. When we're just doing some yoga or something for our own self, and even we may call it bhakti yoga because I'm doing Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam, I'm doing Navavedi Bhakti, but I'm not doing it for the pleasure of Gurudev. I'm not doing it for the pleasure of Krishna, and I don't have that feeling, then we haven't really started bhakti yet. It's just Vaidhi Bhakti, it's just some external thing. Is that helpful, Chaitanya Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, I think I've got to contemplate on it. You meant to use that word often in various contexts. I think I've got to try and absorb it a bit more and get it a bit more crystallized.
It's also, you and I were discussing recently something controversial. I don't want to run away from it, and I'm not trying to push a particular thing. But how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's important to understand this because Mahaprabhu is in the mood of separation. And he wants to be, in one sense, he wants to be in the mood of separation. In one sense. Nobody wants to be in the mood of separation. It's not that we offer separation to Radha Krishna. Oh, my dear Radha Krishna, I want to please you, so I'm going to separate you. You're on the altar, and I'm going to put Radharani over on one side and Krishna on the other side. I'm going to put you in separate rooms to give you pleasure. That's not. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur, he says that Radha Krishna Pranamur Yugala Kishore, that my life and soul is to bring Radha and Krishna together. That's what we want to offer to Radha Krishna. But at the same time, we should understand that Mahaprabhu is Krishna wanting to understand the feelings of separation that Radharani is experiencing in the Brahma Gita. So that's his primary purpose. So if you tell him that you're Krishna, then there's no separation because he's feeling Radharani's feelings of separation from Krishna. So if you say you are Krishna, oh, then I can't taste Radharani's feelings. And therefore we Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur forbade devotees from putting a peacock feather on the head of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he's primarily in the mood of separation. He's primarily in the mood of a devotee. Now, whether or not you want to do that particular deity worship thing, that's up to the individual person. Deity worship is a kind of art, and let different devotees do different things. But let's speak about the philosophy. Let's speak about the Siddhanta. This is a Siddhanta of our acharyas. Is that a little more helpful, Chaitanya?
Yes, it is. That is definitely.
Okay. And Nandarani comments, the words tears of joy come to my mind. Fantastic phrase. Tears usually mean sadness, but one can shed tears out of happiness too. Does that have a bearing, or is it not relevant? It is relevant. Both tears of sadness and tears of happiness are relevant here. But they're perverted reflections in the spiritual world. But as a perverted reflection, it still has value because we can understand something about the origin of it. So, therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was here in Puri, what's the verse? He began to recite a verse in front of Lord Jagannath, which our acharyas have explained was actually a line from a mundane love song. It was nothing about Radha and Krishna, but it was expressing those feelings. So those things can also have some use for us to try to help understand them, or maybe even they may be able to convey some sentiment that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or some very elevated devotee may want to touch, may want to relish. So we have tears of joy when Mother Yashoda sees Krishna coming home at the end of the day. She begins to just cry and so much happiness, and her breasts start pouring out milk. When we see Gurudev, we haven't seen him in so long, we just feel so happy, we just start crying in happiness. And that's an important feeling for us. We also have that to some extent. But thank you, Nandarani. Okay, we ran out of participants online. Anybody here in the room want to share a prize? Anybody won anything today? Prabhuji, go ahead and speak loud if you can, please.
My point is that this feeling of separation is a symptom of love, because unless you love somebody, you don't feel any separation from him. There are so many people that you don't have any relationship with, and you don't feel separation with them. But those who are very dear to me, even short separation gives so much feelings. I mean that separation, feeling of separation is a symptom of love. No, I'm not right.
Yeah, if we have to leave India, we have to leave the Dham, we feel very sad. If we have to leave our devotee friends, we have to leave our service, we become sick, we can't go to the morning program, we become sad. That's a natural feeling. And these two symptoms, these two, Guru Maharaj used to call them the Premadhara, or the river of love. And just as a river has two embankments, so this river of love has two embankments. The embankment of union, Sambhog Tata, and the embankment of separation, Vipralamba Tata. And we've been speaking mostly about Vipralamba. But Guru Maharaj is also touching, we'll hear more about Sambhog in the next session. That's also something very important to speak about. If there's no Sambhog, if we don't meet Gurudev, then how will we have feelings for him? I'll give you an example, a little bit straightforward examples, a little harsh maybe, with all respect to all devotees. There are many disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and they love Prabhupada. And their love for Prabhupada was shown by the service that they did for him. But at the same time, if you think of devotees like Brahmananda Prabhu, or like Trivikram Maharaj, your Guru Maharaj, he was giving Prabhupada massage on a regular basis. And they had so much personal association with Srila Prabhupada, Jamuna. I'd like to hear from them. There's some other devotees who love Prabhupada, and they did so much, and I take the dust from their feet on my head. They're wonderful Vaishnavas. But some of them never ever met Prabhupada. They were initiated by the mail or something. And they have love for Prabhupada through service. But at the same time, because there was no union, it's a different kind of feeling. And those devotees who were fortunate enough, like Brahmananda and Satsarup Maharaj and Jadharani and Jamuna and others, to have had a lot of physical association with Prabhupada, that's an amazing thing, and we should want that. Jiva Goswami speaks about that in Bhakti Sundara. It's not that I'm so advanced, Gurudev, I don't want to ever see you. That's ridiculous. My humble, I wanted to spend every moment I could with my Guru Maharaj, literally every moment. I was there when he was coming out of his hut so I could walk with him just to the temple. It's a small thing, 2-minute walk. But I just wanted to be there to get any association I could. And I'm so happy now in retrospect that I did, because of that union. It gives us some feelings. It's important. So these two things go together. We're going to be speaking a lot about separation, but to understand separation, we also have to understand union. And the book, An Embankment of Separation, is a study of both things. Although the title Separation is there in the book, it's also so much about union, how Radha and Krishna came together as one, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is the topmost example, I think, of union. Is that helpful?
Yeah, and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu experiences union here in Puri?
How does Mahaprabhu experience union here in Puri? In the same way that Srimati Radharani experiences union, Jiva Goswami, he says that there are 3 types of love in Braj. There's the love that the gopis and the parents of Krishna have. There's the love of the cowherd boys, and there's the love of the trees and the plants for Krishna. And it's only amongst the gopis that and Nanda Maharaj Mother Yashoda that they really appreciate separation. Although they see Krishna sometimes, they have a spurti, they see Krishna, but their love is so intense that they don't trust it. They think this is not real. It's not enough. Whereas the cowherd boys, they see Krishna for a moment. They're so simple. Oh, Krishna appeared. It's so nice. It's like, and the trees and the cows also, they're thinking in the same way that Krishna's present because they see some spurti or something of him. Is that helpful? Okay. All right. Anybody else here in the room with anything? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and stop.
I'm really thinking about this happiness in separation, just to continue that same topic.
Yeah.
And I was.
Can everybody hear Krishna Kun? It's hard for me to hear you. Maybe you should walk over here. We don't have to see your face, but at least we should hear your voice.
I was thinking, why is it that devotees experience bliss in separation? Because devotees usually they get happiness. Jiva Goswami explains it. What is it? Bhajaniya Paramasukha something. That they experience happiness in proportion to the happiness that they give to Krishna.
Uh-huh.
So whatever happiness Krishna is experiencing, then the devotees become happy from that. So if there is so much sort of hidden bliss in separation, it means that Krishna experiences bliss seeing his devotees' feelings in separation from him.
Yeah, what Krishna wants, he wants to increase the intensity of the love. And if there's no, as Guru Maharaj used to comment, and I think he does in Embankment of Separation, if there's always union, then love will die an untimely death. So there has to be some separation, because in separation we grow, separation makes the heart grow fonder. There's a saying in English. It works like that. Is that helpful? Krishna wants to show the love of the gopis. And when he sees the intensity of their love, he gets more pleasure from that also. And their love becomes so intense that in that viraha, in that vipralamba, the lover and the beloved become one. And that's Madanaki Mahabhav, that's Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And that's why Radha, the height of Radha Krishna Leela is that separation. But then the next chapter in Radha Krishna Leela is Gaura Leela. And so after that height of separation comes union, is Gauranga Mahaprabhu. But experiencing separation on the outside, but union on the inside, which is what Radha Krishna are doing also.
So when the gopis make the statements, like Krishna, if ordinary people see this pain that we are going through, they don't want to become your devotees.
Krishna's very, very clever. He speaks so many things. When he talks to the gopis in the Ras Leela, he speaks to them about karma.
Yeah.
And he says that you should be good wives and follow Varnashram Dharma and go home. And why does he say that? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that he's cheating. He's cheating certain people who he knows they'll freak out seeing the love that Radha Krishna have, or the Radharani and the gopis have for Krishna. Krishna has for the gopis. That they won't be able to understand that. So he puts this karmic aspect in there. And then in the 47th chapter, when Krishna starts speaking Gyan, that's apparently Gyan, that's also to cheat certain types of people. Krishna's not actually speaking Gyan, but he's speaking something much deeper.
I guess it's difficult.
Loudly.
It's difficult for me to. I understand a little bit something of this bliss in separation, but to separate it from, like to have like a clear demarcation line between that feeling and material separation and the intense suffering that comes from material separation, then there is.
Well, the nature of material suffering is that it's characterized by selfishness. And we feel sorry for ourselves. I miss her. She was always touching me and making me feel happy and cooking for me and doing this and that. And that feeling of separation is just self-pity so often. Mm-hmm. Unless we come to the point of really appreciating someone in a spiritual way and associating on that level, then we can't really begin to experience some real separation.
Mm-hmm. So when we feel separation from a devotee who has departed, then to the degree that our separation from that Vaishnava is based on missing Krishna conscious activities that we perform together, to that degree that separation is spiritual. Can we say this?
Yeah.
And to the degree that we miss him as a person, that we are persons after all, we are human.
Yeah.
So
But
that-
what person? Is it the person who patted me on the head? Is it the person who paid attention to me? Is it the person who gave me a position and made me feel good and this and that? Or is it the person that I love because they love Krishna?
So my question is really this, somewhere it's here. I'm trying to understand if we are missing that Vaishnava because he's a Vaishnava, then that's spiritual. So then there can be union on that basis by following his instructions, by being with him in chanting, like that. But if we are missing a person who gave me attention, there is no means of
Right.
union in
And
that.
therefore Guru Maharaj spoke about how there's two types of disciples. That disciple who's anartha yukta vasta and anartha mukta vasta, or one who has material desires and one who doesn't. And the one who has material desires, his darshan of Guru is bhogya darshan.
Yeah.
He's just thinking that he's for my enjoyment. But the disciple who's anartha mukta vasta, who's free from anarthas, he sees sevaka darshan, that the Gurudev is meant to be served. And the disciple who has material desires, there's three types. We speak about that so
Yeah.
often. One of which is a sneha silita. Sneha silita means they want affection, they want attention. And sometimes we need that because we're conditioned souls. We need attention. And Prabhupada knew that, and Prabhupada gave attention so much to people. We can't just ignore devotees. Some devotees you might be able to, maybe Jayananda, or someone that's so advanced, you shouldn't ignore them. But you might, they don't need to have so much attention. But younger devotees, children, need lots of attention. And when we have to give them that. But someone who's anartha yukta vasta, who has anarthas in their heart, they think the whole purpose of Gurudev is to give me pleasure. That's bhogya darshan. And that's called sneha silita. They're just thinking that Gurudev's purpose is sneha, to give affection to me. You've heard these things before.
So yeah, but I'm just trying to digest it in terms of specifically about this material or spiritual separation and where the happiness of separation comes in. But it seems from the movies and the songs and I'm sorry that I'm taking so much time.
No, that's right.
trying
But
to-
understand, the happiness is not our happiness. The happiness is from Gurudev. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada yasya prasada nagati katopi. That when we serve Gurudev, then we get that ruchi, we get that taste because he's happy. He's
what I was
pleased.
starting off with.
Yeah.
Wasn't that,
Yeah,
So,
Paramahansa.
and what a great test. What Gurudev sees. Gurudev sees one devotee we were talking about the other day was a young devotee, and his guru just paid lots of attention to him and took him everywhere he went and things, because that was how he helped younger devotees. But at a certain point he had a habit, then he would kind of push that devotee off to the side and expect him now to be able to walk on his own. Now I helped you walk as a baby, now you walk on your own, and I have to spend time with somebody else. And that devotee didn't feel like he was really ready to walk, and he really was having a hard time, so he's running around trying to find some other association always. So Gurudev is pleased at that point. When you look, he's walking by himself now. Oh, that's so good. He has faith in what I'm saying.
so when Gurudev gives us attention, does it mean that we need that attention?
I hope everybody can hear you.
When Gurudev is paying attention to someone, does it necessarily mean that they really need that and they wouldn't do service without it, that it's all motivated?
There may be so many reasons why Gurudev may give attention to someone, and if we just say one reason may be because that devotee is just a real rascal, and if they don't get attention, they're just going to leave, or they're even going to cause trouble. Guru Maharaj once said, somebody asked him, Guru Maharaj, why are you keeping such and such devotee with you? And Guru Maharaj said, if I don't keep him close to me, he's going to cause trouble. So at least here I can watch over him. So externally it may look like, wow, this devotee is so intimate and is getting so much association. So that may be one reason. Another reason may be out of genuine love and affection. The Gurudev just really appreciates that devotee and wants to give him so much. Another reason might be that Gurudev wants to glorify that devotee, and he wants to have other devotees take shelter of him in the future. There may be so many reasons.
It seems that there is also pleasure, also some happiness in material separation. Otherwise, the love songs and the movies and the whatever.
There's some
forms,
fascination with it.
some fascination, yeah. So fascination means that there is something there. Maybe people don't understand that there is some. Maybe they wouldn't call it happiness, but there is some potentiality for that. So.
And especially, there's a phrase Rupa Goswami uses, Durgata Gatana Vidatri, he says in one of his songs, that Krishna can make the impossible possible. So when union is impossible, that's Lalita Madhav. Radharani's committed suicide in Lalita Madhav in Act 4, oh my God. And so union is impossible. Radharani's dead. But there is union in the end of the book. And that's amazing. When that impossible becomes possible, that's really the satisfaction I think that everyone is looking for. And we're looking for that in Radha and Krishna, ultimately. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. I'm half conscious today. I'm really, really tired. It's been a long few days of Rath Yatra and everything. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktabinda ki jai. Thank you all very much. So let me just look on my calendar here real quick. I think next week is a little funny, isn't it, Krishna Khan?
No, I think
Next week is okay.
fine.
Yeah, next week is the 10th.
The 10th is fine.
Yeah, I have
The 17th we will be on the train.
Right, 17th we may have to reschedule
No
and just
choice.
cancel that
The train
session.
is at 5 p.m. from Kolkata, no choice.
Yeah, I've never found a good connection on a train yet. Okay,
Unless you want to reschedule it for another day.
but I think Sunday's the only day really it's possible, isn't it, Chaitanya Prabhu? For all the devotees, so we asked this question before.
Yeah, it'll just be very difficult for devotees to change the schedule. We can try. I think it's just easier if we just skip it and then we'll continue as the weeks
Yeah,
of
that's
the
okay.
Okay, and I'm not sure what's going to happen on the 24th because that's when the Baltic Summer Festival starts. But at the least, the very worst will be I'll be able to live stream something and the devotees can watch it. At least there'll be a session like that.
Yeah,
Although-
that's good, Prabhu, also.
But what I would really want to do with these sessions is I want to have a group. Sometimes devotees ask me to join some of these kind of sessions. They've seen them online or something. And depending on the person, I may say, okay, and you can come as a guest. And they say, oh, what does a guest mean? You know, guest means you have one of those little badges. So, guest means that you don't belong to the community. But you're a guest there, and you're treated with love and affection by everybody because you're a guest. You have that title, and even you might be able to join the community later on or something, but not right away. Okay, so we can discuss all that later on. I'll let you guys all go. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for all the time.